Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. We want to say thanks to this group because they've been with us for years and years and years, and I've used them for years and years and years. They've been open since 1971, family-owned, locally owned, like so many of our clients here on the Sports Source that bring you this show every week. They're also the largest locally owned pest control company in the area. Visit southeasttermite.com to learn more. Really, really good people. All right, let's take a look at Tennessee's shooting numbers. It's been a cold start to the season so far. You go back to 2018, 2019, Tennessee was first in the SEC in field goal percentage, led the league. The next year, they dropped all the way to 10th in shooting. 2020 and 2021, they bunched back up to 7th. Then they dropped back to 10th. This year, going into last night, 14th in the SEC in field goal percentage, dead last in the league. Also, Tennessee led the SEC in three-point field goal percentage last year, which helped make up for some of the, you're shooting 10th overall, but first in 3 points, it kind of doctors the numbers a little bit, hides some of the missed shots. But they're only 11th in the SEC entering last night in three-point field goal percentage. So you went from best to 11th. You've gone from 10th to 14th. Shooting's not been great. Mark, is that a concern moving forward, or do you have alternate facts?
Well, I think as we talked about how Tennessee's become an elite program, and against elite competition, it's a game of inches, as we've talked about. The big thing when you look at last year, we shot 36% from three. This year we're shooting 32%. Last year, 33% of our shots were from three. This year, 34%. Last year, 40% of our makes were from three. This year, 43%. We made 8.7 threes per game last year. This year, we're making 8.27. So a half of a three difference a game. And we're really making that up because we're actually making 5 free throws more a game right now than we were last year. Because if you remember, we were really on the kick of, man, we shoot a lot of mid-range. We shoot a lot of mid-range. And the talk in college basketball is you either get a dunk or you get a three because the percentages will say those are better shots.
Because that's what ESPN shows.
And we got away from that. So we're getting to the free throw line. We're getting it inside. And we're shooting threes. I'm not as concerned about it. What I'm more concerned about is if you look against our top competition, the Bahamas, Maryland, Colorado, and then last night, we still have a negative assist-to-turnover ratio. We're turning the basketball over more than we were last year. Last year we had a positive 1.3% turnover ratio. This year we're negative right now.
Here would be my concern, guys. Who was making a lot of those threes last year? Second half of the season, Kennedy Chandler stepped up, was making some and getting to the rim more, right, on the break. Jordan Josiah James. I'm starting to think more and more if you can't get him healthy because he was hitting them. Who else was hitting them? Vescovi, who seems to be it's either a slump or a shoulder. So the numbers, I mean, I get the numbers, but it's who was taking them last year and who's able to make them this year.
You concerned with the shooting?
I am, probably more so than Mark. Now, I think Vescovi is going to turn it around. I think the shoulder injury is a part of that. I think the absence of Josiah Jordan James, I don't think he's a great offensive player, but I think he helps with their efficiency on offense. So I think they miss him.
Yeah.
The other part of that is some of those stats, and I hadn't had a chance to look them up because I didn't know we were going there, but how much were they padded by the Alcorn States of the world? I don't know that. I think when you get an SEC play and you start playing more consistently good competition, that's where the shooting numbers concern me. You don't have anybody right now, in my opinion, that you can go inside for a basket. Now, Grant Williams hadn't been here a long time, right? But he was the guy that you could go to inside. They don't have that. I mentioned earlier, I don't like what they do when they get inside 10 seconds on the shot clock. They don't seem to get good shots. I'm concerned about this offense if you don't get Josiah Jordan James back.
Exactly.
I think that's a big key.
Josiah is the hybrid of Meshack and Key. He can make a consistent shot enough, but he's a good enough defender where without him, you got to have one of those guys, and Key's not the defensive guy that Barnes likes. Yeah. Meshack is, but Meshack's not the offensive player that we need on the floor.
Right, and also finishing around the rim, that gets so frustrating to me sometimes seeing that. Either they can't or won't dunk, and last night Adu is shooting a fall away from like 10 feet. You don't need him shooting, and I know he can make it or they wouldn't let him shoot. But you don't need that, to me.
Let me ask you this. Now, I'm going to show stats this next segment that show there are a lot of teams in the SEC that are ranked in the top 25 right now, and they don't shoot much better than Tennessee. Okay? So we're going to look at that in a second. But from a fan perspective, if if fans had their choice, all offense or all defense, they want the Loyola Marymount 125, 115 win. Well, let's be honest, they want a 120-20 win. But 120 to 115 beats 52-50. Is that an issue going forward? We know Barnes is defense first guy. Now, he was here in 2018-19 when you led the SEC in shooting. But is that a concern at all, the fact that you may win, but you may win uglier than folks may like? Is that a problem or no? I mean, you just want wins, but do you think there's some style point issues for the fan base?
For me,
I hear it.
I hear it. That's what I was going to say. I hear it, but for me,
Just give me the
you're
win.
pretty good at home, right, Mark? I mean, you didn't lose a game at home last year, and I think that if the fans want to see the wins. But yeah, we've saw it in football, right? The difference between high-scoring offense and the previous coach, whose name I will not say, around my campfire again. So, yes, there is style points.
I would encourage y'all to delete whoever y'all are talking to about
you're a coach,
about
win's a
fans
win,
that are
yeah.
upset about stop. Tony Bennett's done a heck of a job at Virginia, winning a national championship,
Mm-hmm.
being in Final Fours. I think they're number 2 team in the country. If you have a top defensive team in the country, every year you're going to have a chance to make a run. Your offense will come and go, and you'll have a year like Virginia where you maybe don't make the NCAA tournament, or maybe make not Sweet 16, but you're going to be in the tournament with chances to get there, because that just drives me nuts when people say that they're upset because they're not scoring enough. We're a top 10 team in the country.
Well, the beauty is we had the same conversation about defense and winning games 55-50 with Justin Hamilton during football season. He's like, just take the win.
Right.
That's not how fandom works. It's got to be a pretty win. It's got to be a perfect win. I agree with
I
you.
feel
Just
bad
take
for
the win.
football. I feel bad for football because after the wins and the excitement that they've had coming into next year, the expectations, if you only beat somebody like 17-14, fans are gonna be mad.
But one last thing, John. Yesterday, Alabama scored 90 points and lost by 10. So how do those fans feel?
Mad. All right. When we come back, the shooting may not be great, but UT's defense, as we just discussed, has been near the top of the nation. So are the Vols the favorite in the SEC? If not, who is? Let's take a look at the SEC quickly in the next segment. Come on back.